All right, strap in, everyone. Today we are going deep on Micron technology.
You know the ones.
Yeah, the memory and storage giants.
Yeah.
Pretty much the stuff that makes our tech actually work.
It's funny because there are these essential components that are everywhere,
Right,
but you don't really think about it.
right, exactly.
DRAM, NAND, NOR,
Yeah,
from the cloud to your smartphone.
Yeah.
It's all powered by these little chips.
it really is. And we've got their Form 10Q right here.
Yeah, fresh from the SEC.
So we're going to break down Micron's performance and look at these crazy industry trends.
Well, yeah, and especially, AI is playing a huge role now, too.
Absolutely. But before we get into all that, can you just paint a picture for me?
Yeah.
Like, what does Micron actually do?
So basically, think of it this way. Every time you open an app or stream a video or you save a file, you're relying on Micron technology.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're a major player in the memory and storage market.
Okay, so they're kind of a big deal then.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, the report mentions over 1 billion shares. Outstanding. That's a lot of people betting on Micron's future.
A lot of people are banking on their future, yeah.
So what does their latest earnings report tell us about those bets?
Well, it gives those investors something to cheer about.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember those huge losses they were reporting? Yeah. Well, they've made a pretty dramatic comeback.
Really? A
A
comeback?
comeback, yeah, big time.
Okay.
We're talking about a net income of $1.87 billion this quarter,
Wow.
compared to a $1.23 billion loss in the same quarter last year.
That's a huge swing.
So Micron's profitability is bouncing back in a big way.
So what's the secret sauce here?
Well, no secret sauce, but there are a few things working in their favor.
Okay.
We're seeing huge increases in average selling prices for DRAM and NAND.
Right.
And then also the demand for data center products is through the roof.
Oh, so they're riding that data center wave?
Exactly. And then there's also AI.
Okay, right.
So high bandwidth memory, or HBM, is really important for AI applications because it processes information at lightning speeds, and Micron is a leading supplier of that.
I see. So they've got their fingers in a lot of different pies then.
Yeah, they do.
But before we go any further, can we break down those acronyms?
Sure.
DRAM, NAND, HBM. It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, so DRAM is dynamic random access memory, and it's the memory in your computer in your smartphone.
Okay.
And it's fast, but it needs power to retain data.
So it's like short-term memory.
Exactly. Then there's NAND, which is flash memory, and that's used for longer-term storage,
Okay.
like in SSDs and USB drives. And it's slower, but it retains the data even when it's powered off.
I see.
And then HBM is like DRAM on steroids,
Okay.
specifically designed for the needs of AI and high-performance computing.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So it sounds like Micron's in a really good place right now.
Yeah, it does.
But I'm guessing it's not all sunshine and rainbows?
Well, you're right. There are some risks lurking beneath the surface.
Okay, what kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one thing that jumps out from the Form 10Q is Micron's vulnerability to geopolitical tensions.
Oh, you're talking about that ban on selling their products in China.
Exactly. That decision from the Chinese authorities has really impacted Micron's revenue,
Yeah.
especially in their data center business.
Right. So even with a booming business, there are still these potential problems.
Yeah, there are always storm clouds on the horizon.
What else should investors be worried about?
Well, the memory market is very volatile.
Okay.
Prices can swing wildly, which impacts their profitability.
Makes sense.
And they're also facing some fierce competition from other memory giants.
Right. So they're walking a bit of a tightrope here.
Yeah, they are.
Trying to grow, but also avoid all these potential pitfalls.
You got it.
And on top of that, they're making this big bet on expansion,
That's right. They're investing heavily in new factories.
like that facility in India.
Yes, exactly.
But isn't that a huge gamble?
Well, yeah, it is a gamble.
Yeah.
Building new factories takes a lot of time and money. And there's always a risk that the demand might not meet expectations.
Yeah, you could end up with these expensive, underutilized facilities.
You could.
So Micron's got a lot to juggle here.
They do.
Global politics, fierce competition, and these massive expansion plans.
It's true.
It sounds like it could be a recipe for disaster.
Or a recipe for even bigger success.
Or,
We'll have to see.
yeah, I guess we will. All right, so to really understand where Micron might be headed, we need to dig a little deeper
Okay.
into their individual business units.
All right, let's do it.
Because each one is facing its own unique challenges and opportunities.
They are.
So break it down for me. What are these different business units, and what's the story behind their numbers?
So Micron has four main areas of focus.
Okay.
Data centers,
Uh,
storage mobile devices, and embedded applications.
got it. So they're catering to different corners of the tech world.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's start with data centers. I have a feeling that's where the action is.
You are right about that. You are absolutely right. The data center business is where it's at.
Okay.
That's where they're seeing the most explosive growth. Their CNBU,
CMBU.
their compute and networking business unit, brought in a whopping $4.395 billion this quarter.
Wow. That's more than half of their total revenue.
It is.
So they really are riding that data center and AI wave.
They are.
But didn't you say that China ban was hurting their data center sales?
I did, but they seem to be offsetting those losses
Okay.
by tapping into demand elsewhere. And remember, they're investing a lot in HBM,
Right.
which is specifically for AI applications.
So they're being strategic about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about their other business units?
Yeah.
How are those performing?
So the storage business unit, or SBU.
The one that makes SSDs and things?
Yes, exactly. That one saw some decent growth, but not as explosive as CNBU.
I see.
It seems like they're being a little cautious with this segment,
Right.
maybe anticipating some shifts in demand as the storage landscape evolves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Be strategic, not just chase every trend.
right, exactly.
Okay, so what about mobile? You know the chips that go into our smartphones?
Right. Well, that's actually a tougher market right now.
Really?
Yeah, their mobile business unit did see a small year-over-year increase, but their revenue actually dipped compared to the last quarter.
Huh. So smartphones aren't the cash cow they used to be?
Not so much anymore.
No? What's going on there?
So the competition is fierce in the mobile market,
Okay.
and the average selling prices for memory chips are going down.
So it must be hard to make a profit.
It is. It's a constant battle.
Yeah. I bet. Okay, we've got one more business unit to cover.
Yes.
Embedded.
Embedded, what exactly does that include?
Embedded applications are everywhere. They're in automotive, they're in industrial equipment, even consumer electronics.
Okay.
So basically any device that needs built-in memory and storage.
So it's kind of a mixed bag.
It is a little bit of everything.
Okay. How's that segment doing?
The embedded business unit is holding steady,
Okay.
seeing a slight year-over-year increase, but also a small dip from the last quarter. So they're weathering the storm, but not seeing that crazy growth like data centers.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so we've got these 4 different business units.
Yeah.
Data centers are booming, storage is strategic, mobiles facing some headwinds, and embedded is just kind of holding steady.
Yeah. That's a good summary.
It's a lot for one company to manage.
It is.
It really is. And it's not just about managing those different segments.
Right.
It's about keeping an eye on the bigger picture.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like those geopolitical tensions, the market volatility, the competition.
Yep. All those things could impact any of their business units.
It's a constant balancing act.
It is.
Trying to find those opportunities and avoid all the potential problems.
Yep.
You know what really stood out to me in this Form 10Q?
Okay.
Is their focus on manufacturing costs.
Yeah.
They keep talking about reducing expenses and improving efficiency.
That's a really good point because in the memory business, keeping those costs low is key to staying competitive.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
how are they doing that?
Well, for starters, they're constantly trying to make things smaller.
Okay.
They're transitioning to these smaller line width process technologies.
Meaning.
It basically means cramming more transistors onto each chip.
So the smaller they can make things,
Yeah.
the more they can fit into the same space.
Exactly. And ideally, that lowers the cost.
Got it. So it's like a microscopic game of Tetris,
It is.
trying to fit it all in.
Yes, and they're investing heavily in R&D to stay ahead in this miniaturization game.
I bet.
They even talk about using EUV lithography,
Okay.
which is cutting-edge technology for creating these tiny features.
EUV lithography.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty intense.
It is.
But I imagine there are challenges with this shrinking process.
Absolutely. As you shrink things down, it gets more complex and expensive.
Right.
They talk about increasing process complexity, the number of mask layers, fabrication steps.
Wow.
Even the tiniest defect becomes a big problem.
Yeah, I bet.
So it's a balancing act between pushing the limits of technology
Yeah.
and keeping those costs down.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about China, but what other geopolitical risks are they facing?
Well, the report also mentions the possibility of future restrictions
Okay.
on selling products that support AI applications.
So that's not just Micron?
No, it's not. It's the whole industry.
Right. It's reflecting these growing tensions around AI
Yeah.
and how it could impact national security and, economic dominance.
Right, exactly.
So they're kind of caught in the crossfire of this AI arms race.
In a way, their success is tied to these larger geopolitical forces.
which are totally unpredictable.
They are.
It just adds another layer of complexity to their situation.
It does.
But they are taking steps to mitigate those risks,
Yeah.
like building that new facility in India.
Exactly. Diversifying their manufacturing footprint is a smart move.
Right.
So they're not so reliant on any one region.
It could help them avoid some of those geopolitical roadblocks.
It could.
Okay, so what about the competition? How are they stacking up against the other memory giants?
So the Form 10Q acknowledges that competition is fierce.
Okay.
They're under constant pressure to develop new and competitive technologies.
It's like an innovation race.
It is. They can't afford to rest on their laurels.
No, they've got to keep pushing the boundaries.
They do. And they are.
Good.
Their investments in EUV lithography and 3D NAND technology are proof of that.
But they're still facing hurdles.
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Well, one challenge is the increasing complexity of their product portfolio.
Okay.
So as they expand into these new markets
Right.
and offer more specialized solutions, it gets harder to manage that complexity and make sure production is cost effective.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
It is. And then there's always a chance someone else comes up with a breakthrough
Right.
that could disrupt the whole market.
Yeah, that's the risk you take.
Yeah, you never know.
But it sounds like they're doing what they can to stay ahead.
Yeah, they are.
You know, investing in new fabs, focusing on HBM, expanding into new markets.
It's true.
It seems like they're determined to win this race.
They are. But, there's one element that we often overlook in these reports,
What's that?
the human factor.
Ah, the people behind the numbers.
Exactly. Because ultimately, Micron's success depends on their ability to attract and retain talent.
Right, those engineers and researchers.
Yes, they're the lifeblood of innovation.
Absolutely. And the Form 10Q touches on this,
It does.
talking about their efforts to recruit and keep key personnel.
Right.
But they also mention challenges.
They do.
What kind of challenges?
Well, the competition for talent is fierce,
Yeah,
especially from those other tech giants with deep pockets.
I can imagine.
And there's always a risk of someone trying to poach their best people.
So it's a tough environment.
It is, but it sounds like they're doing what they can
Good.
to keep those great employees.
It's a good reminder that behind all the numbers and the technology, there are real people
Absolutely.
driving this all forward.
That's right. So as we move into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
let's keep that in mind as we explore the bigger picture. What does Micron's performance mean for the tech landscape and the future of memory and storage?
Let's do it. I'm ready to connect all these dots.
Okay.
All right, so we've made it to the final part of our deep dive into Micron technology.
We have.
We've covered their financials, their strategy, the risks they face, their different business units, their manufacturing process, even the people involved.
It's in a journey.
It really has. It's amazing how much there is to unpack here.
It is.
But now we need to step back and
That's right.
see what it all means for Micron's future
Yeah.
and for the tech world as a whole.
Exactly. Because remember we said at the beginning that Micron is kind of a microcosm of the tech industry.
Right. Their success is tied to all these different things.
Yeah.
AI, global politics, you name it.
It really is mind-boggling how interconnected it all is.
It is. So that interconnectedness,
Yeah.
it creates both opportunities and challenges.
It does.
On the one hand, they have to constantly adapt to new technologies and global dynamics. But on the other hand, they're at the forefront of some of the most exciting developments in tech.
It's like they're riding a wave.
Yeah, trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so as we think about these long-term implications,
Yeah.
I think there are a few key questions we should consider.
Okay, hit me.
First, how will the growing use of AI impact the global memory market?
Okay.
We've seen how Micron is taking advantage of the demand for HBM,
Right.
but this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
As AI gets more sophisticated and used even more widely, will Micron be able to keep up?
It's not a one-time thing.
Right.
No, they have to keep innovating.
Exactly. And then second, how will their expansion plans,
Right.
those new factories and the facility in India,
Uh-huh.
impact the global supply chain for memory and storage?
That's a good question.
Yeah, will these moves create a more balanced and resilient supply chain, or will lead to oversupply
Yeah.
and even more competition?
It's like they're adding new pieces to this giant puzzle.
Right.
And we have to see how it all fits together.
Exactly. And then finally, maybe the most interesting question.
Okay.
What new technologies might completely change the memory and storage market as we know it?
Ooh, are you hinting at something specific?
Not necessarily,
Yeah.
but history has shown us that disruption often comes from unexpected places.
True.
So what if a completely new kind of memory technology comes along
Yeah.
that's way faster or cheaper or just better than what we have now?
That would change everything.
It's a reminder that even industry leaders like Micron can't afford to get complacent.
They have to stay on their
Yeah,
toes,
they have to constantly be looking ahead.
anticipating future trends and adapting as needed.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole story so interesting.
It really does. It's like watching a high-stakes chess match.
Yes,
Every move matters.
it does. So
Yep.
as we wrap up our deep dive into Micron technology,
Okay,
I want you to keep these questions in mind.
I will.
Pay attention to how the memory and storage landscape is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Keep those geopolitical dynamics in mind.
Yep.
And don't underestimate the power of human ingenuity.
That's a great point. This has been a really fascinating look at Micron,
It has.
and a good reminder that even the little things in our digital lives are part of a much bigger story.
And it's a story that's still being written.
Yeah, it is.
So stay curious, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to write the next chapter.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Micron technology.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another fascinating look into the world of tech.